Helen Yee here with Eyes on the Game, and I'm here at One Kicks Gym with Mr. Dewey Cooper. Always great to see you and be able to catch up. I know you're currently training Kevin Lee for his fight against Iaquinta, December 15th. First off, can you talk about how that's going?
Well, thank you for having me. It's good to be here, Helen. As far as the training camp with Kevin Lee, everything's going wonderfully. We're right where we need to be at this stage up to the fight, and we plan on just revving it up more and more and more as we get closer.
Now, what has he worked on in particular? Because I know this will be a rematch. They fought early 2014, nearly 5 years ago. So do you guys kind of look at that tape from years ago still and kind of learn from it, or is he kind of a different fighter now?
Well, Kevin's definitely a different fighter. It was his first fight in the UFC. He was only 21 years of age, and he took the fight on a 3 weeks notice. So he's definitely a different fighter. He's had 12 fights in the UFC, 11 since then. He's beat some top-level guys. He's stopped guys that tapped out Al and Mike Chiesa. You know, he choked Mike Chiesa out. So he's a much better fighter now. Of course, we watched the first fight, and we watched all of Al's fights. We watched his last fight with Habib, sorry. And, you know, we're expecting a very exciting, very tough fight.
Now, what did you think of his fight against Habib?
You know, it was a good fight. He took the fight on, what, a day's notice or 2 days' notice, so he did well. But we expected him to do well because Al is a tough guy, you know. He takes a good punch. He has great wrestling and great jiu-jitsu, and he matched up well with Habib. I felt Habib won every round, but he competed, so we expected that. One thing about Al, he has a big heart. He has a good chin. And, you know, he's a rough East Coast guy, so he's going to come to fight and put his best foot forward. However, Kevin Lee's a whole different animal. Kevin's more athletic, he's more skilled, and he now has the experience to really show a big difference from the first fight with Al.
Now, they're both great grapplers and pretty well-rounded, but what advantages and what strengths do you think that Kevin has over Al?
Honestly, not to sound arrogant or anything, we know it's a rematch. We know he defeated Kevin in that first fight, but honestly, I feel Kevin has an advantage in every category as far as pure mixed martial arts skills are concerned. I think we have an advantage in the ground. I think we have an advantage on the submissions. I think we have an advantage on the striking. So I think we have all advantages. Al's tough, he's durable, he's going to be there to fight. So we just have to stay mentally locked in, mentally engaged, focus, you know, every round, and Kevin Lee will persevere once again.
Now, Kevin has been very vocal about wanting a fight with Habib, and for quite some time now. Why do you think that is, and how do you think that would go?
Kevin's been calling him out for about 2 to 3 years before people even knew who Kevin Lee was. We was fighting on the undercard, UFC Fight Pass and stuff. He was always saying he wanted to fight Habib. Because, you know, Kevin, my philosophy about life is you can lie to everyone else, but you can't lie to yourself. Kevin's been saying this for a long time. He feels in his heart he can defeat Habib, and I'm sure, you know, he can. However, as a trainer, I'm always focused on the matter at hand. Habib's the champion. I picked him to stop Conor McGregor, which he did. No surprise to me. I said it all along. It would be easy work for Habib. So congratulations to him. But our focus, and my focus in particular, is on Al. We have a fight December 15th, UFC Milwaukee. That's all I care about. We just want Kevin to be at his best and conquer the moment that night. Everything else means nothing to me.
Very well said. Now, a fight that just happened, UFC 230. Daniel Cormier defends his heavyweight title over Derek Lewis. What did you think of that fight?
Very few times in UFC history we're really able to say easy work. That was what we call easy work. I mean, I almost felt cheated watching that fight because Derek Lewis had just fought 4 weeks prior on the Khabib-McGregor undercard. He fought a hard fight in which he was losing until 20 seconds left in the fight. He took some serious damage, kicks, punches, everything. He pulls the rabbit out the hat, knocks out the Russian fighter, and now he's fighting 4 weeks later against a great champion like DC, Daniel Cormier. I felt it was almost criminal to even get that fight because I knew he had no shot. He was probably still healing up from the fight he had. So at most he had 2 weeks to prepare because that was a hard fight for him, even though he won by knockout with 10 seconds left. So there are no fights that are easy unless you make them easy. So congratulations to Cormier, but that was as easy work as you'll ever see in the UFC, especially on a main event UFC bout.
Now, he did vocalize that he wants that fight with Brock Lesnar next. How do you see that fight playing out?
First of all, we all know Stipe deserves the fight. Stipe deserves a rematch. He was a heavyweight champion. He's had more title defenses as a heavyweight than any other champion in UFC history. He's the guy who should be getting this rematch. Even though I picked Cormier to win that fight by knockout, I still feel if this were a fair world, which we know it's not, Stipe should be fighting Cormier on a rematch. However, Brock hasn't fought in so long. I see DC knocking him out if they were to fight. I just feel like the ring rust, the inactivity, you can't just take a few years off and get in there and fight a legitimate world champion. So if they were to fight, good for DC. He deserves to make his money. It's a big money fight for him. But I see him stopping Brock within 2 rounds. If he can knock out a guy like Stipe, he can definitely knock out a guy like Brock. Even though I know Brock has great wrestling, he can match him on the wrestling aspect. But the punching, man, the punching of DC Cormier, he has tight, good, hard, powerful boxing-type punches. I think it'll be easy work, DC versus Brock Lesnar.
But do you think that third fight with Jon Jones should happen before he retires?
Everyone has a nemesis, and I feel like Jon Jones is DC's nemesis. If DC doesn't take that fight, I don't blame him. You went there twice, and you were disappointed twice. So in a perfect world, no, that fight should not happen again because I see it being 3-0 in that fight. Jon Jones can nullify DC's wrestling, and it becomes a striking match. Jon Jones is more athletic. He has more speed. He has more weapons on the striking. So I don't see DC winning that fight. He did well in the rematch, but it was because Jon Jones was baiting him. Low kick, body kick, low kick, baiting him, then good night. So in a perfect world, I don't think the fight should happen. If it were to happen, I would take Jon Jones again. He just has his number.
So if he doesn't have that third fight with Jon Jones, I mean, where would you rank DC in terms of, one of the greatest of all time?
He's definitely one of the greatest of all time. He did stuff in Strikeforce. He dominated in the heavyweight division there. He's dominated in the UFC. He's definitely one of the greatest of all time. However, to me, the greatest of all time, I got to go with guys like Anderson Silva, Fedor, guys like that. But he's definitely up there. I definitely got DC in the top 5. And that's the weird thing. If you got DC in the top 5, you got to have Bones Jones in the top 2 or 3, So he's definitely up there with the greatest. If we're talking about strictly heavyweights, he's definitely in the top 3 or 4 for sure. All time, he's somewhere up in the discussion. But Anderson Silva did some great things. Fedor did some great things. Mighty Mouse.
Yes.
He did some great things. He broke the title defense record. So all these guys should be considered up there. But we can't knock DC. He's great for the sport of MMA. He's done well for himself, and he's definitely one of the greatest.